Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good day to you. That's depending where you are in the world. I'm here live in London. I'm doing my nighttime devotion from the devotional Conflict and Courage. The title today, Complaining Again. The scripture reading comes from Exodus 16, verse 2. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. Many look back to the Israelites and marvel at their unbelief and murmuring, feeling that they themselves would not have been so ungrateful. But when their faith is tested, even by little trials, they manifest no more faith or patience than did ancient Israel. God had promised to be their God, to take them to himself as a people, and to lead them to a large and a good land. But they were ready to faint at every obstacle encountered in the way to that land. They forgot their bitter service in Egypt. They forgot the goodness and power of God displayed in their behalf in their deliverance from bondage. They forgot how their children had been spared when the destroying angel slew all the firstborn of Egypt. They forgot the grand exhibition of divine power at the Red Sea. They forgot that while they had crossed safely in the path that had been opened for them, the armies of their enemies, attempting to follow them, had been overwhelmed by the waters of the sea. They saw and felt only their present inconveniences and trials. And instead of saying, God has done great things for us, whereas we were slaves, he's making for us a great nation. They talked of the hardness of the way and wondered when their weary pilgrimage would end. The history of the wilderness life of Israel was chronicled for the benefit of the Israel of God to the close of time. The record of God's dealing with the wanderers of the desert is in all their marchings to and fro, in their exposure to hunger, thirst, and weariness, and in the striking manifestations of his power for their relief, is fraught with warning and instruction for his people in all ages. The varied experience of the Hebrews was a school of preparation for their promised home in Canaan. God would have his people in these days review with a humble heart and a teachable spirit the trials through which ancient Israel passed, that they may be instructed in their preparation for the heavenly Canaan. Complaining again. And once again, it just sums everything up in that last paragraph. So the Israelites, as we well know, were murmuring and complaining, having come out of Egypt, having come out of bondage and slavery and the hard work, and being promised to go to a good land. They murmured and complained. After just a few days, they murmured and complained. They went through the Red Sea, and then they murmured and complained. Short memories. All they could think back to was, I suppose, their supposed comfort zone when they knew what they were dealing with in Egypt. But now, because they were out of their comfort zone, because they were out of control, God had full control of what they were doing, where they were going. But as it says, this is where they lacked faith. And so too do we lack faith. The history of the wilderness life of Israel, it was chronicled for our benefit. The record of God's dealings with the wanderers in the desert, the marchings to and fro, their exposure to hunger, thirst, and weariness, and the manifestations of his power, was all for our benefit. The varied experience of the Hebrews was a school of preparation for their promised home in Canaan. Now, if we look at that story, everything they started and everything they went through, in a literal, physical aspect, we can directly equate that to us today, but in a spiritual aspect. So whereas they were looking forward to the Canaan, the land of Canaan, we would look forward to the heavenly Canaan. God would have his people in these days review with a humble heart and teachable spirit the trials through which the people of ancient Israel passed through, so that we now will be instructed in our preparation for the heavenly Canaan. Let me know if you understand that.